Okay, calling to order the Baker County Land Planning Agency meeting for Thursday, October 9th, 2025. It is 6:02 p.m. I want to thank everybody for coming and joining. I appreciate that. I would ask for anybody that's in the audience that wants to speak, please fill out speaker cards. They're on that back desk. Fill those out, come up and give them to myself or to Julie. And I'm just going to ask before we get into the invocation and the pledge, is there anybody here that's not here for the LPA? Okay, that said, if you guys could join us with the prayer and the pledge. Excuse me. Dear Father in heaven, we ask for your wisdom as we begin this meeting. We acknowledge that we need your wisdom and insights as we welcome your presence among us. Guide us in our discussions, our decisions, helping to seek a betterment for our community. Please always remember those in our armed forces serving overseas, and as we roll into the holiday season, may we be thankful for the small blessings in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, pledge and prayer. I already did just talk about public comments. Moving on to the third item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from August 14th, LPA. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, motion to approve.
Okay. Moved and seconded to approve the minutes for October 14th, 2025. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries, motion approved. Next on the agenda, new business. Madam Director.
All right, good evening, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
We will try to get through this as quickly and painless as possible this evening. The first two applications that I have for you all, they are companion applications. So, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, I'll present them at the same time.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so the first set of applications we have, they are for ordinance number 2025-33, a small-scale land use amendment with a request of very low-density residential to medium-density residential, with the companion rezoning ordinance number 2025-34, with a request of residential conventional mobile home 1 to residential conventional mobile home .5. So this parcel is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Page. It is located off of Gaskin Circle in Sanderson. It's currently a 1-acre parcel. Current land use is very low density residential, and the current zoning is residential conventional mobile home 1. Currently, the property is vacant and it is compliant with all current zoning standards. However, the applicants wish to have the flexibility to add an additional dwelling in the future for their parents so that themselves and the parents could both live on the parcel in 2 separate dwellings. So if you look here, that area is kind of mixed between very low density residential, medium density residential, and then the RCMH 2.5, RCMH 1, and RCMH 0.5. So that's why it's quite colorful there. So the applicant's request to rezone the subject parcel from RCMH 1 to RCMH 0.5 would leave the lot remaining a conforming lot. Would have very similar land uses, very similar lot requirements with a minimal change in density. We do feel that it fits the character of the surrounding area, and so staff recommends approval. If you have any questions, just let me know.
I have none. You guys?
I'm assuming the family allotment was discussed. Is there a reason why they're not going that route?
Family lots are not allowed within this zoning district.
Well, that makes sense then.
Yes, so they are only allowed in the RCMH 2.5 zoning district and higher. So they're not allowed within the RCMH 1. Generally, with those family lots, you have to give at least 1 acre, so.
Oh, right.
This wouldn't fit that category.
Sir? Okay. Any other questions?
No further from me.
All right. No questions from the board or the applicants here? No? Okay. All right, so what's the pleasure of the board? Ordinance number 2025-33, small-scale land use amendment.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Moved and seconded to approve ordinance, number 2025-33, small-scale land use amendment from very low-density residential to medium-density residential. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Motion carries, motion approved. And then we've got the companion rezoning with that. So, any questions on the rezoning?
No questions.
Okay, do we have a motion for ordinance number 2025-34, the companion rezoning?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 2025-34, rezoning, RCMH 1 to RCMH .5. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, the next application we have is just for a rezoning. This is for a parcel that is located, well, let's give you the ordinance number first, get ahead of ourselves there. It's for ordinance number 2025-35, a rezoning with a request of light industrial to heavy industrial. So this is the current site of Burnham Construction. So it's off of Enterprise East Boulevard, just past the Walmart DC, but across the street. So it's currently a 20-acre parcel. The current land use is industrial. The current zoning is light industrial. So with the rezoning request from light industrial to heavy industrial, both of those fall within the industrial land use category. So that is why you do not see a companion land use application here. So the property is currently compliant with its current use, and it meets all of the current zoning standards. However, it is the intention of the applicant to develop a portion of the property to be used for the manufacturing of asphalt concrete. So with that type of manufacturing, it does need to be zoned heavy industrial to allow that. Back in 2015, this parcel went through a rezoning to go to light industrial. And at that time, there were some discussions about this type of manufacturing on the parcel. However, at this time, it would have to be heavy industrial in order to allow that. So some regulations have changed since then, and it does need to be within that heavy industrial. So that's why you see us here today. If you look at the land use and zoning map, you'll see that there are several pockets of industrial along with several pockets of agricultural uses, a small spot of conservation land. And if you look at the zoning district there is some heavy industrial across the street, as well as several industrial spots, including the Walmart DC. I added the floodplain information here just to show that the floodplain does come along just on the other side of the DC, but it is not on this side of the DC. But just for informational purposes, we like to share that. I had a conversation earlier this week with the property owner to the north of this parcel that is currently zoned Ag 7.5. And they shared with me that they have a small pocket of wetlands on their parcel that they are working through a mitigation process with right now. And it is their intention, when that mitigation process is finished, to request an agricultural zoning category as well. So just for some potential future information, the parcel to the north, you may see an application soon for an industrial zoning and land use. If you listen to the commission meeting this past week, they are about to start working on extending Enterprise East, extending the road and extending the utilities along that road as well. So that will help the development that is past this parcel. So the applicant's proposed change would result in very similar uses. However, it would allow some manufacturing uses that are not allowed within the light industrial, but it would be consistent with the area. Other than the applicant, or other than the property owner to the north, we have not had any questions about this application. Staff does recommend approval, and if you have any questions, the property owner is here to answer those as well.
Well, I'll lead off by saying that, the Burnham companies, they've been very good business partners in the community. And this ties right in with what we're talking about for the community, to bookend industry on the west side out there where I live at, with Plant AS or Plant Ag, whenever that comes out of the ground,
Right.
as well as out here on Enterprise East. I have no problem with it, and then we're bringing more business and concentrating that business within the industrial areas. I'm fine with it.
Allows him to grow his business here in our county, and that's one less thing that he has to go out of the county and look for.
Right, and
Yeah.
there could be benefits down the road. Whenever we get talking about roads for us down the road, we got somebody in our in our backyard.
Absolutely.
Gents?
No questions.
No question.
Okay. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Do you want to open up for any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad. So that's the board. Would the applicant like to speak, or anybody else have any comments on this? This changing from light industrial to heavy industrial over in Enterprise East? No? All right, back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board? Thank you.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2025-35 rezoning light industrial to heavy industrial.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 2025-35, rezoning light industrial to heavy industrial. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion approved. Application carries.
Okay, this next application that we have, it is an application for exemption to subdivision requirements for preliminary review. So this parcel is located off, it's actually two parcels that we're looking at. It is located off of 127 on National Forest Road 231. So only one of these is highlighted, but we are looking at this highlighted parcel, and we are looking at this square parcel here, okay? So this is one entire parcel, this is an entire parcel. National Forest Road 231 comes along here. What we're looking at is what is north of 231 here and what is north of 231 here. So those are the two sections that we're looking
So
at.
not south of 231, just
Not any-
the
north.
Not anything south of 231. All of this is north of 231. Okay? So it's 222, just over 222 acres that we're looking at that is north of National Forest Road 231.
Okay, show this to me again. So 231 is the forest road.
This is
That's that big
231.
sandy road through there.
Yep.
And so are you saying from 231 to that yellow line, or all the way north?
So
Keep going
this,
north to the top
this-
of the
no,
map.
this square here
Okay,
and this square here.
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And this is 127 along here.
Yeah,
So it's 127, and right here is where it comes off.
yep, I live out that way. My question is, 231, what's going to happen with that? That's a national forest road.
Yep.
It's wide, it's sandy. Hurricane seasons come through, it gets muddy and wet and soppy. And, what are we doing to mitigate any risk with that?
So I will get there in just 1 second.
All right.
Yep. So, Again, this is the north side of County Road, or of National Forest Road 231, 222 acres. Current land use of Agriculture A with a current zoning of Agriculture B. No requested change for that. The applicant is proposing a platted subdivision with 19 lots. The vacant lots, once recorded, would then be available for individual purchase and developed by the purchaser. So if you look, you can see a portion of this to the north and the west is conservation right now. And then everything here is Ag Zone A, everything is Ag 10 in the immediate vicinity. But again, there's no request of change right now. So on the flood maps, you'll see this square here is what we're looking at, and this square here. So you just have this very small piece right here that falls within the FEMA flood zone. So this is the lot layout that you would be looking at. It is broken out into two different sections. There is a portion in the middle that is not part of the proposed development at this time, and that's why you see it in two different pieces. So here, this is 231, this is 231. See, everything is to the north of it. Then here you can see without all of the extra stuff, you can kind of see the lots laid out there. This portion right here is the piece in the middle that's not being proposed for development at this time. So you'll see the first 6 lots, and then you see 7 and 8 here, but 7 and 8 are also right there as well. So that is, it's not 2 separate lots. 7 and 8 there are the same as this 7 and 8. So if you look through all of the comments, I only had one comment / suggestion, and that was with lots 9 and 10. They seem to create a flag lot in the past. Those have not been ideal, and they have kind of been frowned upon. So it would be my suggestion to kind of redesign those 2 lots to create 2 lots with plenty of road frontage and without that flag lot. But that is just my recommendation, and we just like to share those. So as far as the road is concerned, so National Forest Road 231 is owned by the National Forest Service. However, in 1985, there was an agreement between the county and the National Forest Service for maintenance of some of the National Forest roads, not all. This road specifically is maintained by the county. It is the county's responsibility along all of these lots. So I've spoken to Mr. Chris Lee from the road department. We have talked about that agreement and what that looks like for the county, and that may mean that there would be some additional maintenance required by the county. But again, it is within that road maintenance agreement that this section of National Forest 231 be maintained by the county. So with that, it would be the responsibility of the county. We have that agreement. If any of you would like to look at it, curious about it.
Can that agreement be amended? I mean, I don't know how much you know about that area out there, but I mean, it's a very wide road, but it's a lot of sugar sand. And so before any like home construction and that.
So I'll tell you, with that agreement being between the National Forest Service and the county, that's really, that would be a serious discussion between them.
It'd be
I won't say that it couldn't be amended, but I'll say that they've had the same standing agreement since 1985.
Okay. And I'm just concerned about bad weather and then the burden on the road department.
Right.
People are gonna be calling, we're putting in, what, how many places?
19.
19?
19.
So we're gonna put in 20 new places. And then, that road turns to a quagmire,
Right.
because we're, as a county, not really maintaining it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're keeping it open, but the ditches haven't been pulled. There's a lot of loose sand out there. And are we setting ourselves up as a county for additional costs and expenses for a road that could be maybe cleaned up now or, assuming
Right.
this passes, taken care of before it becomes a thorn in somebody's side? But those are my comments. Anybody else on the board?
I do see the gas line running through lots 10 and 11, or 12 and 11. I mean, you can't build within a certain distance of that gas line.
Right, that gas line will have some sort of utility easement.
Right.
Yes, yes, and that information would have to be, just like with any other standing easement, it would have to be recorded on that plat to make sure that anyone purchasing those lots would understand
Right.
any area that was,
Yeah.
unusable or unbuildable because of that.
That was lots 11 and 12, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said the conservation area, at this time, there's nothing in the wings or nothing in the future to change any of that?
You mean the conservation areas on the two sides? Not that's been shared with us at all, no, sir.
Okay.
And normally, when any area that is deemed conservation, if they want to alter or change that at all, we normally hear about it pretty early, because they will request any permits of any sort that have been issued in that area. So we generally hear about it fairly early. And
Well, and that's what I was
yeah.
asking.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments from the board before I open it up?
I mean, I'm under the same concern with you on the road. I mean, does Radon have access to that? I know we have an agreement with the National
Yeah,
Forest
so
Service.
it's a public road. It is a
Okay,
public
it's a
road.
public road.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. It's a
And
public
county
road that's
maintained.
county maintained. Yes, sir.
yes. Since 1985, the county took responsibility.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts? Okay, anybody from the audience would like to speak on this one? Yes, sir, come on up.
And he is the agent for the applicants.
Name and address, please.
Shane McClintock, 3200 Henry Lee Road, Hilliard, Florida.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
So
sir.
I just want to speak to the two lots, 9 and 10. We're already in the process with LD Bradley to combine those into one, like 20-plus acre lot. So to eliminate that flag lot. So it'll essentially make this project 18 lots in total and not 19. And then I just wanted to mention, as far as the gas line easements, we take that into consideration when we do these lot layouts. And so we have left whoever buys a particular lot in the future, hopefully, plenty of upland, whether before or after the gas line easement. Everybody else would probably build before the gas line easement, but you can cross a gas line easement, obviously, but you can't build or do any construction within that 50-foot gas line easement.
Right.
And then, we do this all over the southeast. And in a rural area, we typically run into these dirt road requirements and we kind of fall in that gray area. So just try to remind or kind of build some context that typically in such a rural area like this, dirt roads are a concern. But historically, these lots don't sell, next day. This is a 2-3 year process to sell these lots out. So although it is 19 lots and that seems like a shock, it's roughly 2 miles of dirt road. And these things, by the time somebody buys a lot, builds a house, we're probably talking about years down the road before these are built out and there's houses out there on those. which, you know, by the time you start having 19 lots and people paying taxes, it does increase the tax revenue in that area, so.
Yeah.
And the last thing I would just say to that is a lot of time people say, hey, well, we'd rather you guys chip seal the road or do something like that, but then it becomes almost cost prohibitive. When we've done this before, this got brought up a couple years ago with Stokes Road off of Stillbridge Road.
Yep.
But you know, to chip seal or to improve a road to county standards, especially a dirt road 2 miles, would be, you know, close to $1.5 million. And then that's almost like, then it shuts down rural development to keep, you know, that side of the county rural. So you know, nobody likes really to hear development, especially if you live in a rural area. We don't suggest changing the zoning or anything like that. But to improve the road on our end, you know, you can't afford that to do that and to sell 10-acre lots. If that becomes a requirement, that's why you have developers saying, okay, the only way to pay for that is to reduce this down to 1-acre lots to pay for that. Yes, sir.
Understood. I just know that dirt roads out here and our road department is stretched thin as it is.
Understood. Yes, sir.
And, you know, and that area, like you said, it is rural, somewhat rural, more rural than the rest of the county.
Yes, sir.
So I'm really not opposed to this. I mean, we approved last month or month before last, the other off of 124.
Yeah.
So for me, taking care of the flag lot, making sure that buyer beware on lots 11 and 12 with the gas line easement. Those are my thoughts, and thank you for taking the consideration of combining the flag lot.
Yes, sir.
Because we do want to avoid that. And then, you know, it looks like and it will be a while before those get built out,
Yes.
you know. Not everybody's gonna come out that way. You know, longer term for the community, I'm more of a fan of infill, and let's keep the green space and
Yeah.
infill and less cost of services, emergencies, but that's a whole different discussion than this.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have any questions. You guys? All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board for the exemption?
Motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the exemption to subdivision requirements for preliminary road for, I'll just call it National Forest Road 231. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. This is approved.
And if I may, just for some additional information, talking about the maintenance of that road, knowing big picture that, you know, there's still parts of this process that have to go through, and we're looking at platting and then actually marketing and selling those. Any maintenance that is, you know, that we would need to see before it was ready to build, that gives the road department plenty of time to really go in there and assess the road and see, you know, get a game plan for how we can maintain it in the future.
Yeah, but I just hear the county commissioners constantly saying,
Right.
Private road, private road, private road.
Right.
Not everybody that wants to move out here is gonna buy a tractor and backhoe or a box blade.
Absolutely.
You know, they wanna live off something like Cowpen Road.
Right.
And I don't wanna see, personally, my opinion, I don't wanna see urban sprawl like Cowpen. I mean, it's beautiful,
Right.
it's nice, but I would rather, if the growth is gonna come, let's condense it. McClenny, 125, Glen, and all of that, and let's preserve the outside green space. All right, that's just, I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's carried. And next, ma'am, to you.
Alrighty. So this is the last application that I have for you this evening. So it is a subdivision development for preliminary and final review. So this is a parcel that we've talked about quite a bit over the last 2 years. It is on the northwest corner of State Road 121 and County Road 23C. So this parcel, you should remember, last year went through a land use and zoning change to bring the parcel to commercial and commercial general, this 2-acre portion. If you remember, when we went through that process, it was a bigger lot at that time. And so the lot has been subdivided to just create the 2-acre commercial piece. So since that parent parcel had been split previously, the 2-acre parcel that was created does require a subdivision application because this is the 3rd parcel created from that original parent parcel. So that's why we're here this evening. Essentially, this would be creating a single 1-lot subdivision just for the 2 acres of commercial space. So we have had quite a bit of conversation between the applicants and county attorney as to what this process looks like for this type of situation. This, of course, because of the acreage of only being 2 acres, it does not fit any sort of exemption process that we would normally see. But at the same time, we're looking at 2 acres that is going to be for commercial use, not residential, not to be subdivided any further, and not to allow any additional density. So that doesn't really fit the stereotypical subdivision process either. So reading through our regulations, talking with county attorney, he agreed that when we have situations like this, where we are looking at a single lot that does not meet the exemption process, it is not necessary for that application to be heard for 3 public hearings because there is no ordinance associated with it. So with that, this would kind of be like a variance. You guys would have the final approval authority unless you had some sort of condition that you wish to go move forward to the commissioners. If you'll see here, the land use and zoning maps, it is commercial. We discussed that went through that process last year. The other corner is commercial as well. This will be developed into proposed development into a Dollar General retail store. So you can see kind of a potential retail site there. Again, already went through the process to receive the land use and zoning entitlements. A single lot subdivision that would be for commercial use with private well and private septic systems. Staff has received a development application for the development of the proposed retail space. Our county code does allow us to be reviewing that development application while we are going through the subdivision process. So we've received that, and staff, as well as our civil engineers and our county surveyors and county attorneys, we are reviewing that now and walking through that development application with the potential property owners. That review includes all of the drainage reports, the detailed site plan, everything that would go with approving a development of this type. So it would still have to go through a final plat process. So with recent changes to legislation in the last couple of months, final plat approval is now done administratively. It is no longer voted on by the Board of Commissioners, not for the final plat. Once the subdivision itself is approved, the final plat goes out to the review team. It is reviewed by the reviewing team, and as long as it meets all statutory requirements, it is approved administratively and then recorded, and everything is finalized there. So with one benefit to going through that development application at the same time as the subdivision application and the final plat approval, you were looking at all of the information in front of you all at one time. We're not looking at approving a subdivision and approving a plat and then something in the plan changed later. We're looking at those side by side so that we know that everything is met, everything matches the way that it should. So that final plat will have to be approved and signed and recorded prior to us issuing that development permit, as well as any of the St. John's Water Management District or state permits that are necessary. With every application, those Water Management District and state permits can look different with each application. Those permits would have to be satisfied prior to the issue of any building permits. So during that development application, you will see sometimes we may have something still outstanding, a state permit still outstanding, that has to be satisfied prior to those actual construction permits. In this case, that does not seem to be an issue. They're accessing off of a county road, not a state road. So, of course, if our access was off of 121, we would be looking at a DOT permit or something like that. That's not the case here. And so far, everything is going well with the Water Management District. There's no reason for concern. So, with that, staff does recommend approval. Like I said, we are looking at a one-lot subdivision that would be for commercial development, and just we feel comfortable after talking through with General Counsel that this is the best way to proceed. And again, in this type of situation, General Counsel felt that you guys would have the final voting authority.
So this is also the one that we had the discussion about the asking for.
The parking variance.
Yes.
And so that parking variance was
that
denied.
been-
And so we are looking at the full 54 lots that are required by code.
Okay, good, because,
Yep.
again, like it was said in the county commissioner meeting, and as we kind of discussed here,
Right.
that applicant comes in, always asks for a variance. And I'm like,
Right.
come on.
Yep, so
Okay.
that was denied, and everything that has been submitted meets the 54 lot requirement.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the board?
None for me.
Okay, any comments from the public? Any applicants? Do you guys have any questions? No? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve?
Okay, we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded for the subdivision development review, preliminary and final, for a one-lot subdivision, commercial business use only, with 54 parking lots. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Approved. And Madam Chair, if we could go back one moment to the exemption to the subdivision requirements for the Forest Road 231.
Yes, sir.
I want to also add into the record that, we approved it on the condition that the flag lot would be removed and consolidated.
Flag lot and gas easement, is that the two?
Yes.
Yep.
I don't know if we recorded that, so I just wanted to make sure we're
Yep.
covering our bases.
Yep, that's what I have in my notes to take to commission.
Okay. All right. I think that's all we have for tonight.
That
for
is,
that.
that is all of the applications
Applicants.
that we have. I know I had shared with you, I don't know, it's been a week or so ago. I had shared with you that we had the data analysis report back, and that North Florida Professional Services would be here tonight, to present that information. So, that's what's gonna take up the rest of our
Thank you, guys.
evening.
Have a good night. Be
So-
safe.
Unless you guys just want to stay for the data and analysis report, you're good to go. So we can go ahead
Hold on.
and swap here. Do you have a public question? No.
You're welcome. Good to see you guys.
Okay, so, I will let North Florida Professional Services introduce themselves, and, we'll go from there.
Thank you,
So,
Ladonna.
have you worked it before? Have you?
You know how to work them things. Good evening, Chair, the members of the board. Brandon Stubbs. I'm the Planning and Grants Manager for North Florida Professional Services. This is Justin Tabor. He is our AICP certified planner, and he did the bulk of the work on this. So I'm going to let him make this presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt us. This is a we're not here to just go through a boring presentation. We want your engagement. So if there's things that you have questions about, please stop us, and either me or Justin will help you out.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Oh, no, that's fine. Good evening. As Brandon mentioned, my name is Justin Tabor. I'm a senior land use planner with the North Florida Professional Services. So I'll run through, and again, as Brandon said, if there's any questions that you have along the way, please stop me. There's a lot of numbers and a lot of data, so any questions, we can pause. So brief background for you regarding why we have to do this process. Chapter 163, Part 2 of Florida statutes establishes the Community Planning Act. This was adopted by the Florida legislature in 2011. However, its predecessor was the Growth Management Act and was created in 1985 to plan and manage long-term growth within the state. So Chapter 163 requires each local government to adopt a comprehensive plan. And this plan provides the framework to ensure that the needs of the community are met. Chapter 163 requires that at least once every 7 years, each local government review and evaluate and appraise its comprehensive plan to determine if there are any changes that are needed based upon state requirements since its last update. Your last update occurred in 2019, so we're approaching that 7-year period, which is why we're here beginning this process. So the comprehensive plan must consider a community's needs for residential, commercial, and industrial lands, as well as the need to conserve critical natural and historic resources. 163 also requires that each local comprehensive plan include at least 2 planning periods, one that covers a 10-year period that begins after the plan's adoption, and one covering at least a 20-year period. Your comprehensive plan must also consider the needs of the community over those defined planning periods as it relates to certain infrastructure. There are 4 infrastructure types that you're required to consider. Those would be potable water, sanitary sewer, solid waste, and drainage. And then the state allows transportation, public schools, and recreational facilities to be considered optionally at the jurisdiction's discretion. So just a 30,000 foot reminder, the comprehensive plan serves as the guiding document for your vision. It shouldn't be the regulatory document, but rather guide the development of land use regulations, which are implemented through your code. As part of this process with the evaluation and appraisal, you are required to provide a data analysis supporting the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan, and that's what we'll review with you this evening to serve as the basis as we move into the plan amendments. So moving into historical population trends. The population of Baker County generally has grown since the 2000 census. In 2000, the population was 22,259 persons. In 2010, that had increased to 26,548 persons. And at the last census in 2020, you were at 28,679 persons. The Census Bureau does estimate that as of 2023, which is the latest numbers available, that your population declined slightly to 28,186. But we believe, moving into this, that is probably just a sign of the times, and between 2020 and 2025, what we've all experienced with COVID and just fluctuations that occurred. Kind of an obvious point, but based upon your historical trends and your proximity to the Jacksonville metro area, it's likely that you'll see population growth that's at least commensurate with your historical trends. Moving into population projections. Chapter 163 requires that the comprehensive plan be based upon the permanent and seasonal population estimates and projections. The Office of Economic and Demographic Research, which is an extension of the University of Florida, annually publishes population projections for each county within the state. These consider a low, medium, high growth scenario, and you're required by statute to consider at least the minimum amount of land that's needed to accommodate the 10-year planning period based upon the medium projection. So, according to the data that's published by the Bureau of Economic and Business Research, which is affectionately known as Bieber and was around before the singer, that's a division of the Economic and Demographic Research, which is referenced in the statute. Your estimated population as of April 1st, 2023 was 28,339 persons. For the 10-year planning period, the medium and high population projections are, for medium, 31,300 persons within the 10-year planning period, and then for the high population projection, they estimate 36,200 persons within that 10-year planning period. The medium population projection, that would represent a 10.4% increase over your current population, and for the high, a 16.1% increase. For the 20-year planning period, the estimated medium and high populations are 32,900 for the median and 40,700 for the high population. So that would represent for medium increase of 27.7% over the current population, and for the high, a 43.6% increase over your
So
current.
basically 1% for the next 10 years, and over 20 years, a little bit above, like 1.5.
Right. Generally speaking, yeah, that's I think coming up next year about 7.8% over the 10-year period. So that
Yeah.
equates to what you're alluding to. Yes. Yep. So moving into the growth trends, we looked at your historical growth trends to determine what would be the most appropriate growth rates for these 10 and 20-year planning periods. For the purposes of this report, our recommendation was to consider two options, or two projections, one being a combination of the medium and the high, which we've referred to as the medium high. So that takes all the median figures and the high figures, adds them together, and divides by 2, so you get the average. And then we also recommend utilizing the high population projection, and the reason being, in this kind of scenario, you want to overcount for growth, right? So you don't want to find a situation where you haven't planned correctly. The state requires you to at least plan for the median population. And I think we all know the trends that North Florida in general is growing by leaps and bounds. So we felt the medium high and the high would be good for planning purposes to use. So the medium high population, which is the combination of the two, shows an increase of 5,411 persons for the 10-year planning period. That would be a 19.1% increase in your current population. And then for the 20-year planning period, that would represent an increase of 8,461 persons, or 29.9% of your current population. The final bullet was covering the last 7,827.7 for the 10-year planning period, and then 12,361 persons, which is 43% for the 20-year planning period. So this kind of getting to, Mr. Chair, what you just mentioned, the growth rate for the medium-high population projection is 7.3% for the period from 2025 to 2035. And then from 2035 to 2045, it would be 7.8%. That lines up pretty well because that trends with what you experienced from 2010 to 2020. So that tells us it's reasonable.
Right, but in terms for the public to consume this, over 10 years, it's less than 1% growth annually.
Yes. This is a 10-year
because
period.
the talk of the town is we're getting run over, and
Right.
in reality, we're not. We've contracted for
Correct.
whatever reason.
Right.
We've contracted, so we're going to come back to what our high was, and then less than 1% per year for the next 10 years.
Correct.
And a little bit above that for 20 years.
You make a really good point. The numbers do seem a little scary, especially when you start looking at the 20-year period and high and talking about 43% growth.
Yeah.
But again, that's being very, very conservative on your estimates. To your point, you're more like a 1% average probably per year, a little less than that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got to get some industry and some of that.
Correct.
Get some business drivers here.
Correct. Right. Okay, so for the high population projection, your growth rate would be 11.9%, so over a 10-year period from 2025 to 2035, and then a little less from 2035 to 2045 at 10.6% over that period, which again, right around that 1% annually.
Yeah.
So based upon all of that data and all of those numbers, what we would anticipate is that the county population would range, based upon the medium-high projections, from 33,750 people up to 36,800 in 2025, and then 36,200 to 40,700 in 2045. So there, the lower number is your medium-high, and the higher number in each scenario is your high population projection. Moving into demographic data, and again, please stop me at any point if you got any questions or anything that I can.
Will this PowerPoint be available for us?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be good, because there's comments that I would like to have made to this too, but that's fine. Because I've got comments when we get to it.
Okay.
Back to the report that was shared.
Yes, sir. So, pointing out the positives that are shown with the demographic data, your median gross rent kind of surprised me when you look at it. You're at $1,011 per month compared to the statewide average of $1,719. That might have changed a little bit in the past few years because everything is going up. So you all are seeing the same thing. That figure is probably not quite perfect, but that's the best we have right now. Also, your homeownership rate is higher than the state average. Your homeownership rate is 83.2%, whereas the state average is 68.1%. So that's a positive sign, especially in today's times. So this obviously shows that Baker County is a favorable community to live in because the cost of living is less than what you might experience elsewhere in Florida. So don't shoot the messenger, and I think I heard you say a little bit about this already, but based upon the data that's published by the U.S. Census Bureau, you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, of course, with employment opportunities. Your unemployment rate is 52.5%, whereas the state average is 57.2%, so it's not too far off, pretty good. Poverty level is slightly higher than the state average, 13.1%, state average being 12.3%. Again, not a terrible variance, but just something to note. And your commute times are slightly higher, which would certainly be expected that you've got people commuting into Jacksonville and that kind of thing. You're at 30.2 minutes relative to the statewide average of 28.5. So what does that mean? Your employment opportunities might be limited, probably not any surprise, and folks might seek employment outside of the county and do that daily commute. Your median household income is slightly less than the state average, which would be the state average is $73,311, and Baker County is $70,833. Again, not a significant difference, but that is probably also a factor of the lower cost of living. So moving into population and education, this one was a bit of a surprise to me, and I think it's a good one for you all. Your population under the age of 18 is 24.1%, and the state average is 19.4%. So that's a pretty big variance in between the state average and here, and shows a lot of potential for the future. So again, opportunity for the county's population to increase over time. However, important to bring in those employment opportunities to keep the next generation
Yes,
coming in.
keep them here.
And not going someplace else for work. Lining up kind of with that, your percentage of individuals who have a bachelor's degree or higher is at 15.3%. The statewide average is 34.9%, but that does match pretty well with what most of your current business is, being within trade and service type industries. So kind of moving into that, retail, trade, construction, transportation, warehousing, and manufacturing, all of those combined represent 36.2% of your total employment. Also noteworthy are the medical and public sectors represent 30.6%. So of course, in both of those categories, there's quite a few opportunities for either just trade schools or you don't need a 4-year or 8-year degree or 4-year, 6-year degree to really do most of the jobs within that area.
Right.
So just kind of summarizing the demographic data, we would recommend that you continue to encourage growth within the industries that are established here, trade and service, to increase employment opportunities for your residents, which aligns with the skills of the workforce. Also focusing on existing employment nodes so that you're discouraging any kind of sprawl, and focusing commercial growth on dense residential areas around McClenny and Glen St. Mary. So looking at existing land use and development characteristics, probably no surprises to you on this information. Your primary land use categories are conservation, Ag A, and Ag B. The Ag A and Ag B represent 55.46% of the total area of the county. Conservation's at 39.2%. Your commercial land uses are focused primarily around the city of McClenny, the interchanges along I-10, as well as along US 90 and in the Lusty area. Residential land use categories are proximate to McClenny and Glen St. Mary. No surprises with that. And you do have three primary industrial nodes, which are primarily along I-10 and or US 90. So moving in how to accommodate future growth. So as I mentioned earlier, Chapter 163 requires you to consider impacts to certain public facilities, potable water and sanitary sewer being the two primary. Currently, of course, you don't provide these services, but the city of McClenny and town of Glen St. Mary do. So while there might not be a lot of opportunities currently to provide service to potable water and sanitary sewer, over the 10 and 20-year planning periods, there certainly would be some potential for that to increase. So along that line, the recommendation would be to focus higher densities proximate to the city of McClenny and town of Glen St. Mary to reduce the potential for sprawl and take advantage of opportunities to connect to their systems. As it relates to residential growth, as mentioned, 163 requires you to plan for at least the minimum amount of land required for the median population projection published by Bieber. As a reminder, that would be 31,300 persons. So your current population, as a reminder, is 28,339. That would represent an increase of 2,961 persons within the 10-year planning period. So also something that was a little raised my eyebrow is that your persons per household is at 2.81 based upon the U.S. Census Bureau, which is also a bit higher than the average. Usually you'll see 2.4, 2.5 in that range, but that kind of seems to tie back with the 24% under 18 figure that we were talking about earlier. So again, that is certainly a positive indicator for the county. So based upon the number of persons and the total per household, that would mean around 1,054 additional households within the 10-year planning period. So based upon the statutory requirements to provide that land, you do currently have sufficient land in order to do that. We, of course, have some recommendations for you to kind of focus a little bit more internally into the county near your municipalities. Okay, so for purposes of estimating the demand of future growth, both the medium population projection published by Bieber, as well as the medium high, those are the two that we use, was the medium population projection from Bieber, because that's required by statute, as well as the medium high that we selected earlier. So the medium high would be 33,750 persons within the 10-year planning period. That would be around 5,411 persons total, and 1,926 households based upon your persons per household average. You also have sufficient land to accommodate this, but again, the recommendation would be to focus more to your core. So through the 20-year planning period for the medium-high population projection, that would estimate 36,800 persons at the 20-year planning period through 2045. This represents 8,461 persons, or just over 3,000 households. And you do have sufficient land currently to accommodate.
Yeah, and
that.
that's over 20 years.
Correct. That is over a 20-year period, and that's a requirement of statute. That's,
Right.
That's the state requirement for you to look at, yeah. And again, these are conservative numbers, higher figures for planning purposes.
Yeah, we don't want to be caught unprepared.
Correct. Right. Okay, so alluded to this a little bit. While your comprehensive plan currently can accommodate the estimated demand, it would be recommended to focus on trying to grow within the area proximate to McClenny and Glen St. Mary, so you're reducing urban sprawl and supporting a more efficient land use pattern. So looking at your current land use map, that would be focused probably on areas that are currently very low density or Ag B, and looking at a category such as medium density, possibly high in certain areas, just depending upon the context of that specific property. Something else to consider, and I believe you all do have an urban services boundary of sorts right now. Another option to consider is a dense urban development area. Also, DUDA is the fun acronym that comes with that. This would define an area where you're focusing growth, and again, could be specific to that area where you want to encourage that to occur.
So could that do to be, so comp plan is legislative updates and telling the state how we plan to grow our community, or we've got the capacity for it, we're thinking about infrastructure, services, this, that, and the other.
Yes, sir.
I've been advocating for years a strategic growth plan that's more, not legislatively required, but a document that says, what do we want to be when we grow up as Baker County? Now, we've been a bedroom community for Jacksonville off and on, but we've got the potential with 24% of the population still living with mom and dad, and that based on the numbers here, that if we bring in industry here, so what do we want to be, as what kind of industry do we want to bring in to create a family working wage for the community, keep our children here, and then subsequently, grandchildren, so forth and so on. So could this DUDA plan, could we take that, what I'm calling a strategic growth plan, and roll that into this DUDA?
So this is still specific to your comprehensive plan.
Okay.
So it would be basically a boundary on your future land use map that says this is the.
All right, I'm with you there.
I think to your point, you can also, strategic planning and things like that might accomplish some of what you're looking for.
But the DUDA, so this accomplishes kind of what we were talking about earlier, and what's borne out by this, as well as your presentation, that we want to concentrate that growth, maybe incentivize those developers to infill and, make the lot sizes 65 feet wide instead of 1 acre.
Right.
So then I've got more rooftops, more revenue coming in that area, and I'm preserving the green space. My cost of services goes down because now all of my people, all my emergency services, ambulance, cops, whoever, are going to a dedicated area. So this DUDA, this dense urban development area, we put a boundary around that and say this is where we're going to concentrate the growth.
Right.
Yeah, correct. So your comp plan and what you would call a strategic plan would be like a sister document to your comp plan.
Yes,
So
and that's what
it
I'm
would-
thinking.
Yeah, so this will be your guiding goals, objectives, and policies, where your strategic plan will get down to the nitty-gritty of how you're gonna make that happen. But your designated urban development area is where you're trying to focus all your growth, your higher intensities, things that require water, sewer, your urban land uses versus your rural land uses.
Yes.
And it kind of gives you a picture of how your town, your county's going to.
Well, and I think that's what we need is a community, and I'm just speaking for Greg Shepherd, but, a vision of where we're going and what we're doing. Right now, we as the LPA, we're responding to applicants as they come. But if we say, here's what our vision is, and here's what our comp plan says, here's our vision of how we want to accomplish this, and then we can focus our managed growth, if you will, on targeting certain industries, certain developers, what have you, coming, because the growth is going to come.
Yeah.
So if we can be prepared for it and say, this is a vision that we see, like Nassau County has done a really nice job of what they've done over there. But that's Nassau County, that's not Baker. I'm saying we could benefit as the LPA and as a community by defining that.
And
Community.
Nassau's been lucky to have a very broad and very deep tax base with the industry
Yes.
over there because of the river and the port.
Mhm.
And that they are very fortunate with that.
And we've got some of that, you're right, they absolutely have a lot more recreation, but I mean, we've got the river that comes through here, just north of us in the Okefenokee Swamp, Charlton, Ware, and Clint County up there. There's gonna be about $90 million pumped into there for the Okefenokee UN World Heritage designation. So you gotta come through Baker to get to the swamp. So if we can take advantage of some of those tax dollars or that revenue comes through the county, and we can still preserve, but anyways.
And I agree with you, a strategic plan would do great, and, you know, as far as like where we're at in the process, I definitely think that once we get through this process,
Yeah.
the data analysis, and then the next step, we'll be working on your actually comp plan amendments, we'll be revising your future land use map, your goals, objectives, and policies to align with the data analysis and what you as LPA and the commission and county staff and the public see as the future of Baker County. And so once we have an actual adopted, revised comprehensive plan, then we would probably want to focus on your land development regulations to amend those, because those get into the nitty gritty of
Yes.
what are you trying to accomplish? Well, you could adopt a comp plan all day long, but if your LDRs don't complement your comp plan, then you end up with the same old thing.
Yep.
So, but that's the time once, you know, you get all these rules, regulations, goals, objectives, and policies in place, then you go through and look at a strategic plan above and beyond, like how do we get this here? How do we get here?
But, so yes, I understand what you're saying there, but I think maybe some of this can happen in parallel, or at least have the conversation.
Yeah, you could
Because, so the
definitely
voice
have
of
the
the community
conversation.
can kind of guide and direct what we want in the comp plan. So if somebody comes in a development like Midpoint Commons,
Yeah.
you know, they were talking that they wanted to have 1 acre tracts over there. Well, shrink that down, you know, put the lots in there 65 foot wide, 70 foot wide, you know, and condense that growth, incentivize that developer to come to the community. And the benefit for the citizen of the community is they've got a new home, they're living in an area, but they've got green spaces as well.
And certainly, the development trend, not just in North Florida, but all over the region, is 500 to 6,500 square foot lots, somewhere in that. And the reason why is, we all know the price of land is outrageous anymore. And people, if you get in there, and it used to be, average lot size was an acre, you know.
Yeah.
And then it went to a half acre, but now, you know, with half acre, 1 acre lots, and then in a platted subdivision, the price to develop that is so expensive. You know, you take a modest home of $275,000 to $300,000, and now you're in the $400,000 range.
Yeah, that's pricing out the young people that you want to
Correct.
keep in the community.
So to get what I like to call, you know, a working class, or, you know, where you're not doing low income, but like a working class home, you gotta have those smaller lots, because you gotta have what's called the economy of scale when you're developing. And,
Nailed it.
and so dividing those lots and making them smaller, and, you know, it makes it, not everybody likes being in the smaller lots or whatever, a lot of people do, because it's less to maintain, it's cheaper, and it's more cost effective.
Yeah, but that can be a starter home, that can be a home for somebody that's starting off and then they have 2 or 3 kids and then they want to move out to County Road,
Correct.
Forest Road 231, they want to move out to the boonies.
So, back to it,
So,
Sorry.
so desired growth patterns, infill opportunities, like transition areas like the I-10, McClenny, Glen St. area, Glen St. area. It seems like it would fit in the accommodation of growth section here, but are we saying it's more suited in a strategic document that comes after this? Because it's,
So your designated, or your dense urban development area would be in your, as a part of your future land use map of your comprehensive plan. So it's both in the comp plan and in the map. So it's actually part of your comp plan.
okay,
So with every comp plan, you have a future land use map.
Yep.
And what you do is you basically, you're drawing a line on that map
mm-hmm,
that identifies areas, pockets, whatever, or an area where urban services are available, and you're wanting to be able to cluster or be able to promote growth. So, you know.
Designated
outside-
growth areas.
Yeah, so everything outside of that would be like agriculture, rural residential, or some kind of, you know, classification where you'd have to have larger lots, say 2 or 5 acres or greater, in order to be able to develop or have a lot, or even more than that. I've seen some counties, they require areas that require a minimum of 40 acres to 160 acres, just depending on what is the environmental features of that area, what are the anticipated growth areas, or what they're trying to focus on. You know, if they're trying to keep people from building in a certain area because it's got, you know, tons of wetland, flood zone, and it's just not suitable for development, well, you might need 40 acres to find a place to put a house. And certainly, I've been around Baker County for a long time, doing surveying and all that. There's some areas of Baker County where you almost need 10, 20
Yeah.
acres to be able to find a place to put a home on there.
Right.
So, you know, those areas you want to, you know, make sure you kind of preserve, because you don't want 1 acre lots in a flood zone where nobody can build on.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to get impact wetlands or environmental features. So certainly, typically, these urban areas are around your core centers, like your cities and places that do have the facilities to accommodate this growth. Where, and I know this is sometimes a bad word when you talk about cities and counties, but annexation. It's also areas that you would be willing to promote annexation for the purpose of having those urban services from the city to serve those areas, because a lot of cities, they don't want to serve out in the county. They want to serve within their jurisdiction. But
Yeah, I just downloaded last week the McClenny comp plan, so I could go through and review that and see what the city's doing.
Correct. So,
So the duty, yeah, thank you. I mean, that makes sense. We draw a map around where we want the designated growth.
Right.
No,
yeah.
to prevent that urban sprawl.
Not to jump too far back, but to your point with strategic planning and things like that, I think a common approach is to have your comp plan, which is establishing your long-term goals, right? So your 10 and 20-year vision. And with your strategic plan, you're usually looking 5 years out. You come back every year and revisit that.
Yeah.
Hey, is this still legitimate? Is there anything we need to add? To kind of
And I'm on the same page with you there.
Right.
And then that strategic plan supports the comp plan.
Yeah,
Comp plan
it's
is
a
the overall policy and guidance.
Right.
But then strategic, here's how we're gonna get there.
Right, they're both supporting each other, exactly.
Yes, and then we have our county commissioners give us a status update on where we at on our strategic plan and meeting our objectives and our goals from there.
Right, right, and you know, revisiting that every year, it gives you the opportunity to add, edit, change, document what you have done or haven't done, not,
Yeah. And then-
or haven't gotten to.
Yeah, exactly. You know, reprioritize it.
Right.
You know, let's take the top 3.
Yeah, and that's
Because-
common too, to have, you know, category 1, 2, 3, you know, lower priority, medium priority, high.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because, you know, like you were saying, you know, about the income and the education level and things like that, you know, 31% of the county is, you know, government employees.
right,
You know, some
big number.
shape, form, yeah.
yeah,
So we need some industry, you know, 36% is,
yeah, that would be everything. That would be
Yeah.
anything that's government based.
yes.
Yeah,
That's a third of the community, that's a third of the economic development here. So, you know, and then the other third is, you know, construction or trades, but that's all stuff going out of the county because we're not doing the work here. And then 33%,
contractors, mechanical, plumbing,
yeah.
they're going to Jacksonville, they're living here and going to
Yep.
Jacksonville.
And like myself, I'm a, And like myself, I'm a IT program
The 30
manager.
minutes of driving for work is a low estimate,
Yeah.
very.
Yeah.
I drive an hour every day,
Yeah.
so.
I would agree.
We
Yeah.
have people that work for us that live here. It takes about 45 minutes.
Yeah, so by trade, I'm a project manager, so,
Okay.
and so I have always commuted to Jacksonville, South Side, the beaches, downtown, wherever. But that was a choice I made when I moved out here.
Right.
But I moved out here in '84, so that's been a minute.
Traffic's probably increased a little bit.
A little bit. And you hit the sun both ways. That's
Well,
one thing
that's
sucks.
lovely. All right, so moving into the non-residential growth. So a little bit harder to predict exactly what. So really, the best that we can do is look at your maximum floor area ratios and identify the area that you can accommodate. So for commercial uses, your land use plan can currently accommodate 5 million square feet of commercial. For institutional and government uses, it's 3.4 million square feet. One thing I did add in here that's not in your report, and we will go back and add in some clarification into the actual report document itself. On industrial land use, you have 69 million square feet. Now that is limited by some comp plan policies. So that's what we want to clarify a little bit in the report when we take this on to the commission, to reference those, just so it's clear, because you look and you see 69 million square feet is a huge number, right? So you got to take into consideration, we're looking here at the maximums by land use only, not by anything else that may be limiting.
Right. Well, and then the,
Two of those major areas that, one's limited to 10 million and the other listed 6 million. But if you look at it from a land use perspective, the floor area ratio, it would be
Significantly higher.
way significantly higher, 2-3
Okay.
times that.
It would be like your Woodstock area.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the other thing, just to kind of make it, because you guys are going to be going before the county commissioners as well, is, and I mentioned at the top of the meeting, is this is all good and tells us we've got capacity for growth and everything else. And, 1% over, for the next 10 years is not, they're not burning the house down. But put into perspective of this land that's available, that I guess maybe that Duda could be part of that or something like it.
Yeah.
But what percentage of the county is available for development? I think it's about 40%. The other 60% is state forest, national forest, or private timber companies and things like that. So we've got to figure out how do we manage that 40%
Right.
for our maximum benefit.
Efficiently, and so
Yeah,
that you're not
efficiently.
using up all that 40%.
Yeah.
It's not ideal either, so, yeah. And just a note too, kind of tying in with the conversation here, while transportation is an optional facility, you do monitor for concurrency for transportation, which it's kind of a double-edged sword because there's some trains of thought that that encourages sprawl, but it also is encouraging, not over putting more demand on the road than what it can handle.
Right.
So. Okay, so this is all information we kind of discussed, so I'll kind of just skip real quick. We've talked about service and trade industries being prevalent in the county currently. So we'll move past this. And we've hit this point too, continuing to encourage these industries so that there are employment opportunities within the county. Also utilize your land that's presently designated for those uses, lines up with the industries that you see. So moving into summary and recommendations, I'll kind of move a little bit faster through some of this just in the interest of time, and so we're not repeating too much. But as we talked about, the comprehensive plan provides the framework for the needs of your community. You're required by state statute to do this every 7 years to do your evaluation and appraisal update. Your last time that occurred was 2019. 2 planning periods, a 10-year planning period, and a 20-year planning period are required. Your population has generally increased since the 2000 census. Your expected range in the 10-year planning period is 33,750 to 36,800 persons. And in the 20-year planning period, the estimated population is 36,200 to 40,700.
So looking at some of the demographic information again, again, a favorable community because the cost of living is less. Your median gross rent is well below the state average. Home ownership rate is higher, and we'll skip over the ones that aren't so lovely to think about. Again, your population under 18 is higher than the statewide average. Need to be looking to provide employment opportunities. This is all stuff that we've heard from you tonight too. And many of the current employment opportunities don't require a college degree. So again, points that we've hit, continue to encourage growth within the established service and trade industries and the medical or public sectors, since those are prevalent here. Focus your growth on the employment nodes that exist in the county currently to discourage urban sprawl, and focus on locating residential or commercial growth near dense residential areas so that it's best utilized. And that concludes everything that I had for you this evening. Of course, we're happy to take any more questions, have any discussion or anything that we can do tonight.
No, this was good, Justin. Thank you for that. The one thing I would kind of counter that with is, so if we get into, let's call it logistics, supply chain, warehousing, what have you, the challenge we're going to have as a community is having the infrastructure out there to support a 1 million square foot Amazon DC or something. We can zone it all we want.
Sure.
But Amazon's not going to come in, put in the roads, the power, and the water and the utilities on their own dime. They're going to say that should be there. We'll do the tilt wall construction, throw up a warehouse and employ people. But that's something that we've got to figure.
Yeah.
It's not for the LPA to figure out, but it's something that we need to include in our comp plan that we're thinking about.
Right, and that might be grant funding. Florida has a program for, it's the job growth grant, where, you know, if you bring in a certain number of jobs that will average a certain dollar amount in income, that they will support infrastructure projects like that. So
yeah.
if that's not something that you all have utilized, I would certainly encourage you to look into it, because that can be very helpful to try and
I
pull
think we
folks in.
have twice out here at Enterprise East. That's that Midpoint Road that's going in. That the state funded that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it was from the same funding bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also out there at where I'm at, Woodstock, out on the west end of the county, you know, they stubbed out a road out there, and that's where Plant Ag is supposed to go in whenever they get done with the sale.
Yeah, the beauty about being a rural county is the state has a lot more funding, and they typically support a lot more development, industrial, to bring jobs to these areas. Look at what Columbia County has done with their mega industrial park.
Yeah.
You know, all of that, I mean, a majority of that, I'd say 90% of the funding has been state funding.
Really? I was wondering where you guys got all that money, because I'm
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
wow, look at what you guys got going on here.
There was one funding that was $4 million for a railroad crossing. It was done by the state. There's a specific state department that deals with railroad crossing, and they got grant funds they hand out. There's rural
Well, I got your number. I
infrastructure
might call you up and give you.
Yeah, there's rural infrastructure funds, there's job growth grants, there's Swanee River Water Management, which actually, if it's water quality stuff, you know, you get multi-millions of dollars for, you know, through Water Management District to build water plants, you know, that kind of stuff. If you're reducing nitrogens, you know, there's grants for almost any and everything. The thing about it is just looking at what you're wanting to do, and then figuring out what grants are best to accomplish.
Well, and that's where we were at the top of the discussion.
And we do that for a lot of communities. I mean, a lot of those grants with Columbia County, with all the other surrounding counties.
But first, we have to decide what we want to be.
Mhm. But, I mean, we're working on a industrial park in Hamilton County. And they need a road. They got an end user. They got the water and sewer there, but they gotta build a road. That road's like roughly $5 million. County don't have the money, but, you know, rural infrastructure funds, job growth grants, you know, if you can justify it, you know, you can get the
Yeah.
funding. Now,
That's good to know, though, that there's funding out there for some of that infrastructure.
yeah.
The
we'd be happy certainly to talk more about, the fundings. If y'all got an area that y'all wanna see, and you're like, but how do we get it done? We can certainly help y'all get it done through, funding now.
Well, we're just volunteers here. We're gonna have to talk to
I
that.
understand that, but at the same time, it's like, a lot of those funds, they do require matches. And
Mhm.
so you have to, have some skin in the game, as far as the state's
Yeah.
concerned, or the federal government, depending on where it comes from. But, the beauty of that is, a project you might pay $1 million for versus $5 or $6 million
Yeah.
for.
And again, well, thank you guys. I don't have any other comments.
Yeah,
I'll be
I had
quiet.
one. So I was hoping, like, a section integrating health, wellness, recreation, and kind of tying in, like, communities design to health outcomes. You guys have done a few of these. Is that ever a thing involved, part of this stuff, or?
That might come a little bit more when we get to the actual amendments to the comp plan. At this stage that we're at, it's kind of just looking at what are the numbers, what do we need to plan for in the future. Very valid point, I think. But I would think probably the next phase in the process, once we get into actual policies, that would be where that's kind of going to be your policy directives.
I mean, wouldn't it be a good point right now to identify, like, almost no walkability score in Baker, for a lot of Baker County, and because as we grow, like, that's something that I would like to see as we grow. It includes, walkability scores, sidewalks and, recreation stuff, parks, access to these, like, that's something that I would like to see grow personally.
Yeah, and Justin's right, that's not something that would be beneficial to put in here,
Yeah.
because no matter where you're at, if you're wanting to grow, that right now, we don't have no establishment of, what we call a level of service.
Yeah.
To even base it upon, so we wouldn't
Okay.
know whether we have a good, bad, or whatever score, because it's all community-based and opinion, right?
Yeah.
So when the comp plan comes along and we're looking at there's a level of services for different items, and a lot of that's parks, recreation, tennis. I mean, we go down to specific, like golf courses, tennis rackets, pickleball,
Yeah.
baseball fields. I mean, there's local governments that have, like, we will have, for every 10,000 people, a baseball field or a tennis court, or, so, and that's typically in your recreational element and your level of service, or community facilities element. And so you're right, if that's something you want to look at, we can definitely look at that during the comp plan phase. And then we can look at it and say, well, what do y'all envision? How do y'all envision that? And what do you think the standards should be? And it should be something that's realistic, because
Yeah.
let's face it, recreational facilities are expensive anymore.
Sure.
I mean, just to do, a tennis court or a baseball field, or, it costs a lot of money, where back in the day, recreation was cheap.
Yeah.
And now it's not. There's so many things you still got to factor in ADA compliance for a lot of things, and that drives the cost up a lot. There's just a lot of different factors in nowadays that, back in the day, you just had your public works department go out there and build a baseball field. You can't do that no
Yeah.
more. But,
But I like what you're saying, and a lot of that, I think we could
And I've
maybe.
seen with counties like ours that have those denser municipalities within the county, you generally see more of that laid out for those individual municipalities and not for the county comp plan. Because most of that type of growth and development and function overall happens within those municipalities instead of outside in the unincorporated.
Yeah, but think how cool it would be to have a walking trail from.
No, I absolutely.
What board do I need to get on?
Yeah.
agree.
And I'm working on revisions to the Columbia County comprehensive plan, and they identified like number of boat ramps per so many thousand. They got a mile of walking trail per so many thousand people, and they have very, very broad and very specific what I call level of service for recreation, but Columbia County has a lot of recreation. But one thing that, you can also look at doing, and this is one way to encourage recreation, and maybe look at, okay, the county may not have a bunch of funds to build recreation, but how can we get our pocket parks? So these would be like subdivision, guy comes in here, he has 100 acres, and he wants to develop, let's say, in 100 acres, let's say quarter acre lots, 400 units. Well, okay, we'll give you a little bit of a bonus density if you come in here and say, we'll let you cluster these lots or reduce your lot sizes by 10% if you take that 10% and put it in a community park for that subdivision. And that's one way to encourage the growth of parks, because it might, developers are like, okay, to be able to concentrate and reduce maybe the amount of paving I have to do, or the amount of water sewer lines I have to run in order to put this 10% aside. In the end, even with the park, you might be in a better opposition.
And I've seen too, not just incentives, that are allowing, reduced lot sizes if they do that. I've seen it too where if you have more than X amount of lots, a requirement for a park, you know, something like that in those development regulations. You know,
Yeah, and that's something we should,
if you're proposing more than 25 lots, you have to have a park,
Yeah.
you know.
And that kind of helps, not only with the county, with recreation, but it helps the community that's living there. It provides, you know, as you see, your population has a high rate of under 18, which means that you've got a lot of kids running around, and it gives them something to do without getting into mischief or get bored and trying to do things they shouldn't be doing. But, you know, it's definitely something that should be encouraged, because it provides the county with parks that it's not having to pay or use taxpayer dollars to build.
But that's a fine line right there though too, because they build this big 4,200 acre neighborhood over here. All the kids from Baker County are gonna go over and use their parks, and then you got complaints and they're tearing up our stuff, and I mean, it's a balance.
Well, and there's more than one way to handle that. For these smaller neighborhood parks, they may be private, they may be in a homeowners association, and they may not be regulated or be maintained by the county per se. So there's more than one way to do that, 'cause yeah, you do get a lot of that, when you get like a bigger park that's in a community that's bigger, that's dedicated to the public.
Yeah.
People get upset because now you're taking hundreds of people a day and putting them into their neighborhood.
yeah.
And no one really likes the term impact fee, but that's another option.
Yeah.
You know, just laying everything on the table for you. You
Yeah,
know,
but that's gotta be objectively based, you know,
Correct, and it's very, the statutes on that are very specific. So,
Yeah.
like you're saying, you cannot just arbitrarily pick a number and say, we're gonna require you to pay 5,000 per home.
yeah,
It has
because
to be
there's a
supported.
segment of the citizenry that thinks that, oh, we'll just add impact fees and poof, everything else is gonna grow.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
percentage, it's
Right.
not,
It takes time. You gotta build up that fund to be able to
Yes.
do something with it, yes.
Yeah, and a lot of local governments will do like an actual study.
That was in our budget this year that just got approved.
Yeah.
They did have the money to do the impact fee
Yeah.
study. It was
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah.
Didn't we have it at one time, and didn't they
we
take
did,
it
but
away?
the-
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the way they took it away kind of tied our hands to where another study had to be done in order to put it back in place.
I mean, just like y'all's population growth, 2 or 3 of these big neighborhood comes in, it's gonna,
Yeah.
I mean, it'll double those in a blink of an eye,
Yeah.
you know?
Where, you know, like I said, if they're not gonna build in their neighborhood, they say, well, we don't wanna do that, but we'll pay the impact fee in lieu of building a park.
Right,
And then all of a sudden you got $1 million where you can go where you want to build a
Right.
park.
Yeah.
Where you,
Make it a
and-
more regional facility.
Mhm.
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 Or if you got the land and have a regional facility and have the property to expand. And all of a sudden you got, the area to make a couple tennis courts, a racquetball court, or, putt, whatever it be, identifying your recreation plan that y'all wanna. And I will say y'all do have, I've worked on several of y'all's boat ramps through the years, and unfortunately, your St. Mary's Cove got washed away, but.
Yeah.
So we're working on getting that back for y'all, and hopefully it should be, you get HOGP funds to rebuild that. But yeah, that was unfortunate right after they got completed, Helene wiped it out,
Yep.
but, that was one of the projects I was managing.
Ah,
And I was sad to hear that, but, y'all do have a couple good, or several boat ramps that are really good condition that just got rebuilt that, so y'all do have
Okay.
those facilities and stuff.
so the deadline to transmit this is what, April 1st? Comp plan, and then we can make additions after that?
Yeah, so this is,
Yeah, so,
you wanna go through the timeline with them?
yeah,
Okay.
if you would.
I got one more question, if I
Yeah,
could,
sorry,
hopefully short.
And
So
you ain't
if
said
we-
nothing, man, we're all.
if we wanted to
beating
look
our
at the,
Looks like he is processing.
Y'all are answering.
if we wanted to look at the methodology behind some of these projections, particularly with Bieber, do you know if that's available?
Oh, yeah, you talking about.
Well, like limitations, assumptions, kind of stuff
Yeah,
that, when it-
all that is, published in the Beaver study.
okay,
So, yeah, there's a statewide, they do this for every city, every county in the state on an annual basis. And so all their, methodologies, all their, whether assumptions it may be or whatever, all limited in there.
and that's something just open
Yep.
for
they're
public.
public. Just type in, University of Florida,
Oh, yeah,
BABR, population projections, and it'll bring it up, and they have them by year, and you can download them. And obviously, the good thing about it is every 10 years, 2010, 2020, so, you have a census, and so that
Mhm.
census is pretty accurate. I mean, you can't make it perfect, but it's pretty accurate, and so they utilize data from those censuses. So if they know what you had in 2010 and what you had in 2020, and they look at your growth rate, you can get a pretty consistent number of your annual growth. I apologize, Mom. A little tickle in my throat, but.
That's all right. Need some
Water,
water?
water right there.
All right, sorry, I got some, I just. But,
Yeah, thank you.
it's, all the data that actually we utilize to do these projections, make these, is all public. You can get, like, your property appraiser, you'd be surprised the amount of data they have on what properties are commercial and vacant, what properties are developed in, commercial or residential. So if you combine your land use map, your zoning maps, with the data from your property appraiser on whether it's vacant or, non-vacant, or what kind of use is on that property, you can, there's so much that you can get from that it's ridiculous. I mean, what we have to get for statutory requirements is great, but you can actually do way much more with that data than, what the state requires.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
And that data is all in a file geo database, and, it can be, basically pretty much exported to Excel, Access. So if you're really good with Access databases, they can export a wide range of data into Access, and you can use Access to generate a bunch of reports. I mean, it's amazing what you can do, with all that.
Okay, cool, that's good to know. And timeline,
It's all
can you
public.
just,
It's all public record, unless they're
Yeah.
law enforcement or whatever,
and can you just run through the timeline for everybody here,
but, yeah.
what we're talking about?
So, when we looked at this approach, we understood that the county was gonna be seeking a, community planning technical assistance grant. So they submitted that back in, about a month and a half ago. It was my understanding when I told Paola Muir up at, Florida Commerce on, when they'd be announcing that. She had told me about October 1st, but I've been trying to reach her.
Yeah, we still haven't.
Yeah, and nobody's heard on what or who granted those or how much or anything. So we haven't heard, but we phased this project. And so the county had funds in last year's budget to do the data analysis portion. So that's what we did here. And we kind of cut that off because what happens is if we had gone through with the rest of it, the county would not be able to use the grant funds to pay for it.
It had to look like a singular.
Yeah,
project.
understood, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why we did it in phases, so
Yeah.
that we could hopefully get that funding. If not, we still have budgetary funds for it, but.
Yeah, we're hoping to hear soon that, so that they can get the grant agreement, grant awards and all that. And then we can move on with phase 2, which is the drafting of the, revised comprehensive plan, the future land use map and all that. And then that'll commence phase 2. And that's the deadline that you were talking about. I thought it was July 1st of next year.
So we had,
Well, nonetheless, I mean, even after it's transmitted, we can come back and make amendments to this,
Correct.
you know, down the road.
Yeah, what we want to do is hopefully start soon because we have anticipated a pretty hefty public participation process.
I hope.
And so what we'd like to do is have, public meetings or a charrette or some kind of public engagement process for the public. And, then take all that, what we get from the public, present it to you guys in a workshop, get y'all's input, and then take that with the public and go to the commission in a workshop, and then get their input, and then take all that data and, look at establishing first a vision. What is the visions? And then we'll come back and, we'll draft some amendments based upon, what all information we got. And then we'll do a series of workshops. Probably go through one element at a time. Or 2 elements at a time, depending on how long it's gonna take. And, until we get through the entire comprehensive plan. I think y'all's comp plan is 7 or 8 elements. I think y'all only had the required elements.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
8 sounds.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
8.
I think it's 8, yeah. So maybe try to do it in either, 3 to 4 workshops.
Yeah.
And, then, once we get to that, then obviously with everything, we'll finalize the document. Have the first reading for the P and Z, for the recommendation to the city council or board of county commissioners. And then we'll have our first hearing, the first reading with the board of county commissions, transmit it, to the state under the state coordinator review process. And then when it comes back, if they have any comments or whatever, we'll address those comments and then take it back, for final reading.
Yeah. And then hopefully it's not just stuck on the shelf. It becomes a living document for us to,
Excuse me.
And I think
Go
once
for
we're
it.
to a point that we're starting to have those public meetings and those discussions, you'll see the process speed up. Right now, it seems
Yeah.
very slow. Once we get to that public aspect, you're gonna see it move a lot faster.
Certainly, and, it'll, once we do all the workshops and go through the comprehensive plan, do the initial of what what y'all wanna see and what the public wants to see, what the, board of county commission wants to see. It'll take a couple months, I'd say, 10 to 12 weeks to actually get the draft document and then start going through those. And what we may do is, to save some time, is if we get through like the future land use and the transportation element per se, we might come and present those in a workshop while we're working on some other elements. Try to
Makes
save some
sense.
time. So, any additional questions?
No. This is a good start. Thank you, LaDonna, for marshaling it through. Appreciate it. You know where my mind is.
Great.
Okay.
And certainly, you know, I have my contact information, so if you want to get ahold of me or Justin, or, you know, want to talk to us, we'll be glad to, you know, sit down and answer any questions. So, and we look forward to having you involved in the actual comp plan rewrite. And y'all's input.
I'll get you the card.
Cool. Thank you, Jeff. All right.
Yeah, there's information right there as well, so if you want to take a picture or you want to.
I've got that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Anything else? Other comments from the board? Meeting adjourned.